The next morning, Duke transformed Urium into a fashion-forward, vampire-repellent superhero with a cape and escorted her to a church where Pope was ready for action. Urium kneeled, and Pulp began his purification routine. However, things took a dark turn when Pulp's thumb touched Urium's forehead and blood started oozing out. She took an unexpected nap, unconscious style. Urium woke up all snug in her bed, sunshine beaming through. She noticed the sunlight didn't feel like a BBQ on her skin anymore. So she asked Duke if the cure worked. But guess what? Duke, playing the silent game, didn't spill the beans. Furious, Urium inquired about Pope's whereabouts. Duke revealed that Pope would be fashionably late because he overdid his magical energy tricks. Urium, feeling like Rip Van Winkle, asked how long she was out. Duke revealed that it was a whopping 3 days. Now, that's what you call beauty sleep. Then Duke, the drama king, started shaking like a leaf. He spilled his guts, confessing he thought Urium was on her way to the great beyond. He blamed himself for all the blood and tears, thinking he'd turned into a professional sin-committing machine. As Duke was having his moment of moron, Pope made his grand entrance. Urium, grateful for the rescue, thanked him for the life-saving gig. She couldn't help but poke the question about the purification process. Pope, being the wizard with the answers, declared it done and dusted. Urium officially joined the Sultra Club. Now Duke, in full simp mode, begged Urium to stick around for the grand finale. So Urium dropped a truth bomb on Duke, telling him she's loving the human life. In their world, being human meant caring and taking risks. And Duke, being her knight in shining armor, was doing just that, taking care of her and facing the risk of losing her. The next day was a royal family shindig, and they all gathered around the table for lunch. But Ariam and Duke pulled a Romeo and Juliet sitting on opposite ends. As the royal gossip session heated up, a servant with a bottle of wine approached Urium. Later they strolled through flower fields, and Urium, thanks to that wine, was as tipsy as a cat on a hot tin roof. In her merry state, she popped the big question. Would Duke protect her and stick by her side? Duke, being the smooth operator, brushed it off like a pro. But little did Urium know, Duke had a surprise up his sleeve. As they sauntered along, Urium spotted a fancy dome ahead, hit her like a ton of bricks. Duke was about to pull a proposal stunt. Lo and behold, Duke went all out, proposing in a romantically epic way, sliding a ring on Urium's finger and sealing the deal with a kiss. The news spread faster than a squirrel on roller skates, and folks were buzzing with excitement about the upcoming royal wedding. In the cozy palace, the Duke and Urium were enjoying their time together. Rumor has it they even engaged in a bit of friendly wrestling the night before. The Duke, however, received an invitation that seemed to be missing an important detail. While snuggled up next to Urium, the Duke couldn't resist his peculiar fetish of hair sniffing. He was having a grand old time playing with Urium's locks. The next day, they set out to find a suitable match for the Duke's sister Flora. But oh dear, Urium wasn't too thrilled about the whole matchmaking business. She boldly asked why the Duke wasn't considering using her blood for Flora's needs. Instead of giving a straight answer, the Duke suggested they sleep in separate beds for a few days. As they reached their destination, the Duke looked as pale as a vampire on a night shift. Urium, being nearly immortal with her strong muscle mommy vibes, assured him she could handle anything. In the midst of their library adventure, he suddenly passed out. When he woke up in bed, feeling like a deflated balloon, he was not in the mood for sipping on other ladies' blood. Just as he pondered his life choices, a beautiful lady waltzed in, claiming the king was worried and had sent her for Flora. Things took an unexpected turn as the lady decided to play a round of royal twister on top of the Duke. The situation got pretty intense. And just when things were heating up, in walked Ariam at the most awkward moment possible. Witnessing the scene, she swiftly turned around, dagger in hand, ready to tackle the royal drama. So the Duke, feeling like a shaky leaf in a windstorm, shuffled over to Urium. Now, you'd expect Urium to be all fired up or annoyed, right? Surprise, surprise. She went in for the hug, telling the Duke to chillax and recharge his batteries on the bed. Then this other lady, the blood messenger for Flora, barged in. She then revealed, if that's the case, He should skip the buffet and sip on her blood smoothie. The Duke was a bit worried, like a kid thinking broccoli might be gross. But Uriam was all in. He took a little nip from her neck and bam, it was like the best dessert he ever had. Tears started flowing like he just watched a puppy video. Next day, they were on their way to Grinnell, a place with a fancy farm belt claiming their juices were fit for an emperor. But trouble struck and they had to make an unexpected pit stop in Manfred City for the night. Duke wasn't throwing a party in his head about it. Turns out he had some not-so-sweet memories of Manfred because they were all about that vampire life. They finally reached the Manfred Palace and got a royal welcome from the owner, who ushered them in like VIPs. Inside, Uriam spotted a girl with blue hair named Julia. No fear of black-haired wonders here at the dinner table. Uriam eyed the tea suspiciously, thinking, is this some Scooby-Doo mystery? But the house lady gulped it down like it was a smoothie, so Uriam figured it was safe. No poison today. The house lady, with all the subtlety of a detective in a mystery novel, started asking Uriam about her marriage plans. She dug deep, wanting to know if Uriam got any pearls of wisdom on tying the knot. Now here comes the plot twist. The house lady was acting fishier than a penguin in a fruit market. She called in a servant demanding the finest hot coffee, and then dropped the bomb. She asked Uriam to send away her posse, the bodyguard and handmaid, for a little tea to teat. Alone at last, she straight up asked Uriam if she really wanted to sign up for the vampire wife gig. Uriam was like, say what now? The lady painted a pretty grim picture, talking about enduring marriage for eternity and serving up blood cocktails to Duke forever. To drive her point home, she showed Uriam a scar on her own hand like a creepy vampire membership card. The lady wrapped it up with a horror movie speech about the terrifying life of marrying a vampire, then made a dramatic exit. Fast forward to Uriam finding Duke in a room, nose buried in a book. She was all shades of blue, and Duke, being the attentive partner, noticed the sadness. He pops the question and Uriam spills the beans about the house lady's warning against the vampire wedding. Duke, after hearing about that, got so riled up that he stormed out with Uriam's dagger in hand. Drama queen much, but Uriam the peacekeeper stepped in like a boss before Duke could unleash some dagger dance moves. The next day at the grand function, people couldn't help but admire Uriam's fabulous hair. All eyes were on Uriam as people couldn't help but glance at her fabulous hair. She felt the attention and decided to join in the hair talk. Uriam casually mentioned that both her parents had black hair and then fired back with the questions. The lady in the hot seat blushed and revealed about inheriting her hair from dear old dad. Enter Duke. He waltzed in and, without missing a beat, offered to put asphalt on the lady's hair if she was feeling jealous. Uriam, being the girl power advocate, grabbed Duke's hand and shut down the potential hair crisis, declaring it a girl talk zone. As the guests kept streaming in, Duke and Uriam got separated. Duke, contemplating whether to retreat to his room, got intercepted by the Manfred man. The man revealed about his wife being rude to Uriam. Duke, in his cool Duke style, waved it off, claiming Uriam didn't mind. But the Manfred man had a secret mission and escorted Duke to a so-called safe place. Duke, raising an eyebrow, followed him, thinking it might be a hidden snack. It wasn't. Instead, they ended up in a dungeon with a massive metal door. Duke, losing his patience, demanded the man tell him what he was up to. But nope, the man was all about suspense. He claimed the real safe place was a bit farther, leading Duke to a devil church with a throne fit for a vampire king. The man spilled about their need for a place to share faith and encouragement. Duke shut that down real quick. Instead, he asked the man to tell the real tea about Uriam, and oh boy, it got intense. The man spilled that while Uriam might be a looker with good manners, all she really wanted was the power promised by some mysterious edict. The Manfred man went all storyteller and claimed that Uriam revealed to his wife. According to him, Uriam spilled the Duke saying she's marrying him because he's a rich, handsome hunk who showers her with love. Classic gold digger accusations, right? Duke stood up from his throne and decided to make a grand exit. But the Manfred man played his trump card, trying to guilt-trip Duke by hinting that Uriam might just be in it for the money. Apparently he didn't want their vampire god falling into the clutches of a supposed gold digger. Hearing this, Duke had had enough. He gave the man a smile that probably screamed, "Nice try, buddy," and made it clear that he'd never change his mind about Uriam. Exit stage left. Meanwhile, back in Uriam's world, she was on a mission. Worried about Duke's disappearance, she decided to put her detective skills to use. She asked Isabel for some tongs because, every good detective needs tools. She had a plan to heat the ring and check if it held any secrets. Just as she was about to turn her plan into action and put the ring over a candle flame, Isabel showed up. Uriam told Isabel she needed a bit of privacy, and off Isabel went. Uriam heated the ring, only to find a hidden vow of their partnership. Duke appeared out of the blue, casually mentioning that he had already told this before. As Uriam put the ring back on, it felt a tad heavier. Duke, in a surprising burst of sweetness, tossed a blanket over Uriam, fearing she'd catch a cold from her detective escapades. Morning rolled in and surprise, heavy rain outside. Eager to escape, Manfred felt a bit down. Duke broke the news that they'd be stuck there for another night. Logan popped in with a bunch of documents and Duke decided to put in some work, taking the day off. Uriam, bored out of her mind, tried reading, but to no avail. She suggested to Duke that she'd visit the birdhouse. Duke told her to take a guard with her. As Uriam ventured outside, she bumped into the Manfred lady in the hallway. Small talk ensued, with Uriam mentioning she was off to the greenhouse. The Manfred lady, with a sudden interest in horticulture, asked if she could tag along. Uriam and the Manfred lady sat in the greenhouse like they were on some kind of awkward plant-themed date. The Manfred lady, probably trying to be polite after her previous rudeness, asked Uriam about her day. Uriam wasn't exactly thrilled to be hanging out with her. But hey, safety in numbers, right? The Manfred lady, doing her best apology routine, said sorry for being a bit rude the other day. She revealed stuff going on at home, and Uriam, being the understanding soul, shared that it even reached Duke. But it seems the message got a bit tangled along the way. Uriam reassured her it was all good, even if Millard was giving her the stink eye. After a little chat, they decided to explore the flower wonderland around the greenhouse. Uriam, stumbling upon some gorgeous white flowers, was in awe. But the Manfred lady pulled the classic "I've got chores to do" excuse, holding a pair of scissors like she's on a mission. Left to her own devices, Uriam got teamed up with the green-haired girl, Julia, who showed her the bird scene. Uriam, feeling like a bird whisperer, started feeding them. Just when things were getting chirpy, the green-haired girl pulled a plot twist. She tried to take Uriam down. Uriam's guard swooped in like a boss, blocking the attack, and yelled at Uriam to make a run for it. Uriam, with a painful cut on her hand, ran like her life depended on it. Which, let's be real, it kinda did. The guard lady, showing off her dagger-throwing skills, tossed one to Uriam like they were playing some wild game of catch. But the Manfred lady popped up like she's part of the action movie cast. Uriam accused the Manfred lady of being in on the whole "let's take down Uriam" plan. She warned her to keep a safe distance and made a grand exit from the greenhouse, throwing the dagger for good measure as Uriam sprinted, pondering the craziness. Duke, with his superhero senses, sniffed out her blood trail. He raced towards her, scooped her up, and dashed back to the palace. Faster. Back at the palace, Isabel, always ready for a crisis, went into nurse mode. Duke licked Uriam's wound until it magically closed up. Forget band-aids. It's all about vampire saliva. So Duke, in his "I'm the boss" mode, summoned the guard lady and called in the dynamic duo, Manfred man and lady. The guard lady revealed the assassin chose a shortcut to the afterlife, leaving everyone puzzled. But they nabbed the Manfred duo for this circus. Manfred man, unleashing his inner drama queen, screamed about the Emperor's wrath and how they'll pay for this. Logan scolded the guard lady for kickstarting this whole mess. In the middle of this shouting fest, Duke walked in. Silence fell like a royal decree. Everyone shut up. Duke, probably channeling his inner volcano, looked ready to erupt. He marched up to Manfred man, who started pleading innocence. Duke decided to give Manfred man a taste of his own medicine. He grabbed the broken arm and gave it a royal squeeze, causing Manfred man to cry like a baby. But Duke wasn't done. He added a dash of artistic flair by slashing Manfred Mann's face. Duke strutted away. The next morning, Uriam woke up feeling surprisingly spry. Isabel, with her soup game on point, brought a bowl to Uriam. But why soup for just a tiny cut on the arm? Confusion set in. Suddenly apologizing for not acing the protection gig, Uriam checked if the guard lady's hands were still in tip-top shape. Good news. They were. Night fell, and Uriam yet again got a soup delivery from Isabel, just as she was sipping on her mystery soup. In walked Duke, sporting a bathrobe like he just conquered a royal mud wrestling match. Tired and probably in need of a spa day, Duke rejected Uriam's chef offer, claiming she needed to preserve her energy. Uriam, sensing Duke's bad mood, pulled the classic "I'll go brush my teeth" excuse because good oral hygiene is a royal priority. When she returned, Duke was still in the same gloomy position. Uriam, being the caring empress, asked the big question, "What's eating you?" Duke apologized, swearing he'd protect Uriam from any harm, saying revenge was like his royal duty or something. Duke revealed that he messed up their faces and limbs and threw them into temple prison. But Uriam, not a fan of watching people turn crispy, suggested they make a swift exit at sunrise. However, the next morning, Pope delivered the news of central investigators and fact-finders descending upon Manfred. Surprise, surprise, they had to extend their stay in this drama-filled town. Uriam, probably thinking she's in a never-ending royal soap opera, revealed to the investigators, just when she thought they could finally escape, more troubles knocked on their royal door, forcing them to stick around a tad longer. Where does Pope come from? Pope, whose real name was Ezra Travis. From the day he popped into this world, he was a bit peculiar. He couldn't walk straight, and to make things interesting, he saw people for what they really were on the inside. No fake masks for Pope. He saw through all of that. One day, his mom dragged him to meet the intimidating Duke. Now Duke was as dark as a black hole, and Pope got the heebie-jeebies just being near him. From that moment on, Pope prayed like there was no tomorrow, begging the universe not to let him cross paths with the Duke again. Fast forward to the present, where Duke, Uriam, and Pope find themselves in a bit of a pickle. Duke was paranoid about security. Uriam was being all mysterious like a cat, and Pope was blabbering about the Duke snubbing the Emperor's invites. Apparently, attending once was considered a fluke. Talk about harsh critics. Pope convinced Duke that attending the Emperor's shindig was crucial for his noble street cred. He threw in the responsibility card, telling Duke that the higher up you are, the more important it is to show up at these imperial parties. Pope went to the Emperor, spun some yarn about Duke agreeing to attend, and dropped the bomb that it was all because of Uriam. The Emperor was over the moon, and Pope was pretty pleased with himself. But as Pope helped everyone fulfill their wishes, there was no one around to grant his wish for a personal stand-up comedy show. Life's unfair, isn't it? So the next day, Pope swung by Duke's crib, and there he bumped into Uriam, who was all smiles because Pope had a knack for saving her life. Pope casually asked Uriam about their New Year's prep. Uriam revealed, saying everything was going swell. Duke, though swamped with work, still managed to join her for horse riding practice. Pope revealed to Uriam, who, being the supportive friend, assured him he was the right man for the job. They giggled and cracked jokes, making the room sound like a comedy club. Little did they know, Duke heard their laughter from the hallway. He waltzed in, telling Uriam their giggles were audible miles away. Then the interrogation began. Pope revealed that he was just there to scope out the festival preps. Pope asked Duke if he was scheming something fishy, like making him the blessing procession poster boy. Duke threw it back at Pope, saying it's his call. Fast forward to the ceremony, and Pope was decked out like the belle of the ball for the blessing procession. The town was buzzing with festival vibes, drums banging, trumpets blaring, the whole shebang. Pope, standing on the terrace, looked like a holy man descended straight from the sky. Suddenly, the Emperor and Empress entered the scene, making a grand entrance that would put a Hollywood red carpet to shame. But the Pope, with Uriam's pep talk echoing in his head, flashed a smile and kicked off the procession blessing ceremony. As he chanted his magical spell, glitter rained down from the sky like a sparkly blizzard. People were mind-blown. The divine power show, though, left Pope feeling a bit like a deflated balloon. As Pope strolled back into the palace, a guard praised him for the glitter extravaganza. Little did Pope know, Duke was brewing a storm of annoyance about the whole glittery situation. Fast forward to the night Pope followed a servant on a secret mission. Why? Because he got a letter from Duke saying Uriam had caught a cold and needed him. ASAP, the sneaky adventure led Pope to a candle at Wonderland, where Uriam and Duke were chilling. The Pope questioned Uriam about the letter. She apologized, praising his festival skills. But Duke was on a glitter vendetta. Annoyed that sparkles and lights invaded his personal space, Uriam revealed that they actually summoned the Pope for a lantern launch party. She handed him a lantern, and Pope, probably thinking it was a new festival trend, gladly took it. They launched the lantern into the sky. But Pope, being the clueless hero, couldn't figure out why they dragged him into this lantern affair. After the lantern show, Uriam turned into a hugging machine, embracing Duke and gushing about how happy and amazed she was. But the Pope, standing there like the third wheel at a joyous party, wasn't feeling the excitement. Nope. He was hit with a wave of jealousy, wondering how a guy with a darkness-filled soul and a girl with an empty inside could team up and find happiness. He felt like the odd one out, clueless about what would bring him joy. Now in Pope's room, he kneeled in front of a statue, contemplating life choices. So fast forward 3 years into the Duke and Uriam marriage saga. It's their anniversary day. The locals, though, thinking the empire got a bit shinier with Duke tying the knot, still saw the power couple as the kings and queens of self-centeredness. In the palace, Duke wasn't just calm, he was on cloud 9, thanking his lucky stars for snagging Uriam. Why? Because he was now immune to the fear of losing her. Duke decided to make a grand entrance into the library, where Uriam was deep into her studies. She threw some expedition and Demon Island gossip at him, but Duke had other plans. Ignoring her chit-chat, he scooped her up for a romantic kiss. Hold on, though. Uriam, being the sensible one, halted the lovey-dovey action. Duke revealed about the Demon Island, explaining it got its spooky name because it was inhabited by folks with brown skin and they were kind of rare in the empire. Now, Uriam casually dropped that people with brown skin were a dime a dozen where she came from, but Uriam, getting all serious, pointed out the empire's lack of proportion. Duke, the master of dodging serious talks, ignored her concerns and slipped into his playful and mischievous mode. The next day, Pope was doing a happy dance because Uriam revealed the second plan, but Pope was stuck in a mental pickle. He wanted that warm and fuzzy feeling he got with Duke and Uriam, thinking that becoming a high priest might be the golden ticket. Meanwhile, in Dreamland, Duke was having a dark and twisty nightmare about Uriam's grand entrance to the palace. The next day, when a chatty traveler showed up at the palace, he revealed his journey. He yapped about getting hurt, encountering folk with black hair and dark skin, and a morning ritual called Oblish. Duke grilled the traveler about the island's god, Gudillo. Duke started suspecting that Uriam might have some Demon Island connections. As Duke and Uriam rolled in a carriage to who knows where, Duke popped the question. He asked if Uriam's hometown was the infamous island. She shut that idea down, claiming she never even heard of their god. Duke, relentless in his investigation, asked if she missed her hometown. Uriam revealed that she did, and even missed her parents. He revealed to Uriam about his not-so-happy childhood, revealing he had no hometown to call his own. Then, in true nosy fashion, Duke popped the question that he wanted to know every juicy detail about Uriam's life. She revealed, spilling it all. Fast forward to noon in the palace, and Duke's mind was like a blender, processing all the info Uriam dropped about her hometown. Night bulbs turning darkness into day, weird tech stuff for him. But Duke, being the skeptic, couldn't decide if it was a wild story or pure truth. And then came the mystery of Uriam's hometown location. She played dodgeball with that question. Duke called up Pope for the 411 on Uriam's origins, but Pope couldn't recall the deets, claiming it happened way back when. So Duke, desperate for info, prodded Pope about his thoughts on Demon Island people. Pope dropped the bomb that no matter how Demon Island folks looked, they sure weren't empty vessels like Urium. According to him, Ariam's got this soulless vibe moving around like a puppet with only memories to guide her. Now Duke, lying next to snoozing Urium, couldn't shake off the worry about a potential third-world existence. The next day, Duke was in full-on worry mode. Fearing Urium might just up and leave to keep her by his side, he pulled the classic move of stopping her from going to a friend's birthday bash. Like a master chess player, Duke suggested they take their vows. Ariam, caught off guard, expected Duke to wait until she hit the ripe old age of 80. Duke, with anxiety levels skyrocketing, sat Uriam down for a serious talk. While holding on to her like a teddy bear, he straight up asked the big question: was Uriam from another world? Ariam, the dodgeball champion, chuckled and swerved the question like a pro. Duke pressed on, wondering why she was dodging this topic. Uriam, with her fake smile, game strong, spilled the beans. She explained that if she spilled the truth about getting teleported to their world by getting hit by a car, it would sound like a plot from a cheesy novel. With a grin as wide as the Grand Canyon, she assured Duke he knew all her secrets. Duke, overjoyed, probably did a happy dance in his mind. They shared a romantic moment, sealing the deal on their little secret sharing session. So, a couple of years flew by, and now Duke and Ariam have a little dude named Egan who just hit the big one. Menace too. At a fancy dinner with the Duke's fam, Egan's got questions. He's wondering why they're munching on breakfast while other royals are still in dreamland. Ariam, being the wise mom, throws in a curvy ball and asks Egan if he's found a girl to hang out with. Now Egan ain't into the whole dating scene. Duke senses this and assures Ariam that Egan will find his way eventually. But Egan's not having it. He storms off the table, probably contemplating the struggles of being the Duke's offspring, people talking smack, giving him the stink eye. Not a fun time. Not. Up in his room, Egan's deep in thought, hating the idea of going out just to please the masses. He knew some girl would come along, but he was already predicting the gossip behind his back. And then enter Juan Asel, Travis's kid, barging into Egan's sanctuary, begging him to go out and play. Juan played the annoying big brother card, won't take no for an answer. At the festival, Egan was majorly stressed about what people thought of him. Every laugh felt like a personal attack. Poor guy. But then, out of the blue, a girl waltzed up asking about his festival partner. Egan spilled the beans. He was partnerless because he didn't have the guts to ask anyone. Now another boy swooped in, yelling at the girl that she agreed to be his partner instead. The girl, with a swish of her imaginary cape, shut him down like a pro, promising they could team up next year. Off she went to smooth things over with the boy, leaving Egan in a whirlwind of social anxiety. After that, he and the girl both teamed up for the acorn gathering competition. But the same boy from earlier came. He started trash-talking about Egan's mom and dad, poking fun at the whole vampire-human mix. Enough was enough. Egan, channeling his inner superhero, gave that boy a heavy punch. Inside the palace, Mama Duke went into full-on worried mode when she saw Egan's battle scars. They called the Pope, but it wasn't the legendary Ezra this time. Nope, a new Pope was on the scene now. The boy's parents got the royal summons, and Duke, in all his wisdom, demanded a proper explanation. Uriam grilled the boys for the deets. Egan, sensing the impending doom, couldn't muster the courage to spill the truth, so he pulled the classic move, tears and it's all my fault routine. Uriam, playing the good cop, asked for an apology, but the girl who teamed up with Egan waltzed in, spilled the beans, and Uriam started scolding both boys like a boss. Apologies were exchanged and crisis averted as the boys' parents made their exit. Uriam whispered something mysterious in the mother's ear, leaving her trembling. Uriam praised Egan for his bravery, claiming she would have thrown 100 punches if she were in his shoes. But Duke, ready to unleash his fury, got stopped by Ariam, who reminded him that he already warned the family. In a heartwarming moment, Ariam hugged Egan, thanking him for defending their honor. Egan realized he hit the parent jackpot with these awesome folks who guide him through problems, even the tricky ones he can't figure out on his own. Aw, the adventures of the royal family drama and healing hugs.
Love the manhwa? Subscribe for more. Your support makes it all possible. Hit subscribe now!